Listen, overgiving and putting others before yourself is not the badge of honor you think it is. Like, there's no trophy. Let's talk about it. What is up, y'all? It is Queen Chef Author Healer. I'm a chef by trade, writer by gift, healer by nature. And over here we talk all things healing, but I specifically like to talk under 4 pillars, and those pillars are self-love, energy alignment, addressing inner child wounds, and purpose discovery. So I will talk about many topics that all relate back to your healing or your healing journey, or even your spiritual awakening journey. But please know that I do that because we are spiritual beings having a human experience. So today we're talking about overgiving as it relates to a lack of self-love. So when I say that, people usually will think of it just from a like the physical things you give standpoint. People will only think about like giving money, giving material things, giving gifts. That's not all I'm talking about when I talk about overgiving, sacrificing yourself, sacrificing your time, your energy. Because a lot of times we think that there's like some type of badge of honor, and it's not our fault. It's not our fault mostly because we are trained that way. We are trained to think that way through different things, like through the church. The church will constantly teach you about giving, and nobody ever really teaches us how to receive. Nobody ever really teaches us how to set ourselves up to make sure that we are in reciprocal situations. And I'm not just talking about relationships. Now, mostly, again, because for a lot of us, that's where a lot of our healing needs are going to come from. But even in family situations, even on like in your career path, your jobs, a lot of us, like even for jobs, for example, you think, okay, I'm getting a paycheck. That's the reciprocation. But you also have to be able to assess the situation and say, okay, my paycheck is the reciprocation for my work, but am I overgiving in any way, in any capacity? Like, am I overgiving too? And then you apply that same concept to anything, with relationships, with anything, because I know a lot of this stuff is cliche, but cliches are cliches for a reason. Because I was about to mention the like only giving from your overflow thing. Like, we've heard it so much, but it's like, listen, nobody is gonna, it's true, because nobody is gonna fill your cup like you. Nobody is gonna, like, even if somebody does pour back in occasionally, or sometimes you get in a situation where it feels like it's somebody is trying to help balance, nobody is gonna fill your cup like you. And this is why you cannot let things deplete you. You cannot get to the point of empty from other stuff, because you still got, like, it's like you still have so much other life to live. You still have to be a parent, a girlfriend, a wife, or whatever, an employee or a business owner. You still have to give to so many other things. When you let yourself get all the way to empty on behalf of trying to be everything for everybody else, it's going to be extremely hard, and it's going to take way longer than it has to for you to fill that cup back up, if you ever truly fill it back up. A lot of us just be running. We learn how to operate half empty, still giving and still pouring and trying to replenish our own supply, when in reality, like, there's just no badge of honor in that, and ain't no reward at the end of the day. Like, I don't care how amazing your kids turn out, I don't care how amazing your relationship turns out to be, that's not a replacement for neglecting yourself. Like, over giving to others, is not an excuse for neglect of self. And what brought this conversation on really was I woke up with self-love on the brain, just in general. And I started thinking about the examples that I've seen in real life, in real time, of what self-love definitely is not. And now it'll show up for most people, it's going to show up with like a lack of self-care. But I even try to warn people against confusing self-care and self-love, like, because they are not synonymous. It's not the same thing, because self-care is more along the lines of how you take care of your physical self. Self-care is, and it might spill over into like some of your emotional and mental care, like if you do spa days or you do, but it's mostly going to show up in your physical being. Self-love is about truly accepting who you are at the core, good, bad, ugly, and you learn to love that person. You pour into that person. You create you create the self you want to be, and you just are you in love with that to the extent that nobody can ever trump it. Because this is what really triggered the thought for me. I was thinking about a conversation I had with somebody, and we were talking about like my boundaries, my standard, and what exceptions are and what exceptions there are not. And what made me think about how my own personal growth and how I've like started to reflect on things differently is, some people will assume because of the relationship y'all have that they are exceptions to the rule. But what I had to explain is there are no exceptions to the rule when it comes to my boundaries, because my boundaries are my protection. My boundaries are to ensure that I stay in this new growth, in this new phase of self-love, or I'm sorry, not phase. My boundaries are to ensure that I stay safe in this new era, this new me. And so when I put up these new boundaries, these new walls, it's to protect this version of me. So ain't no exceptions. And I said that to say I kept thinking about it deeper and deeper. And it's like, there are no exceptions, because the bottom line is this: I can love you. I can like you. I can be in love with you. But the conclusion I've come to is I will never, and how it has to be, I will never love you more than me. This is just it's just how it has to be in order for me to maintain my boundaries. Now that don't mean I'm detached and I'm emotionally unavailable and none of that stuff. It simply means I will never love you more than me, because my self-love is the source of everything else that I'm able to keep up around me. If I don't have that certain level of love for myself, I cannot properly give to things. So overgiving will become inevitable. Like, you're not going to be able to avoid the overgiving, because if I allow myself to be in a place where I start to lose the love I have for myself, and I mean that in a sense of like, again, you might get into something, a relationship, a job, a business, anything, where it starts to take priority over what I put into myself. It starts to take priority over, how I give or how I replenish my own supply. Like I said before, but I can't let that happen. You can't let that happen. You cannot let that happen, because that self-love is what drives everything around you. That self-love is the core. Like, as you're healing, and remember, I'm always speaking about the healing journey. I'm always speaking about it from a healing perspective or a spiritual perspective. That self-love is your new foundation. As you are growing, as you are evolving, as you learn to love yourself, that's your new foundation. Because remember, before the journey, your foundation was your pain, your traumas, your different childhood wounds, the different things that you have to address. Before the pain, it was that. You know what I mean? Now that you're on the journey, now that you're growing, you evolving, you learning to love different, to be different, to exist in a different way. You learning who you actually are, you're becoming who you've always wanted to be. You in touch with your higher self now. You know what I'm saying? That self-love is your new foundation. Because a lot of us, let's just be real, a lot of us didn't grow up on love, didn't grow up on true, genuine love. So we never had that foundation of love. We definitely never had a foundation of self-love. Even if you had a loving family, you were 9 times out of 10 still taught, you weren't really taught about self-love. And you know what? One of the things is, because self-love is selfish. And a lot of us are taught not to be selfish. Think about it. As a kid, you're taught to share, even if you don't necessarily want to. You're taught to share because it's nice, because it's kind. Like, share with your friends, share with your cousins. You know what I'm saying? Share your toys if people come over. Those things are ingrained in you very, very young. And I like talking about this stuff because people don't always make these connections. We're not taught to make these connections. But think about it. The reality is, like, why am I taught young to not be selfish? You know, that's one of the first concepts you learn is don't be selfish. But then as you grow older, you learn the necessity of being selfish sometimes, especially if you're a natural giver. Like, I was talking to somebody else, like, you don't run into natural givers often. That's why overgiving is such a taboo for me. It's a huge red flag for me. Like when I'm helping people and when I'm having conversations with people, I can always tell when you too much of an overgiver. And what it really boils down to is people pleasing. And that people pleasing usually comes from a place of neglect or a place of abandonment. Like if you grew up and you had an abandonment wound like myself, at some point in your adult life, you think back on it, you were a people pleaser because you were taught to do in order to feel that love that you weren't necessarily being shown naturally. You were taught to do. So 9 times out of 10, if you are a people pleaser, you are also probably a doer, meaning you spring into action for other people. You want to do. Actions is how you show love. It's how you try to get love, because as a kid, a lot of times it's like you will get praise for the things you do. So you became a person who just do things, whether it was cleaning up around the house or whether it was in you didn't naturally get praise for just who you are, for just existing, for just being. You didn't get shown love for just because you were a child or the child. You didn't get the praise or the love you wanted for that. But when you did things, it was like, oh my goodness, you good at that. Thank you so much. Thank you for sweeping. Thank you for mopping. You know what I'm saying? If you even got thanks. That's another story for another day. But if you even got thanks for it, you know what I'm saying? That is how you got your recognition. And as children, to us, that is what felt like love. That recognition, that praise, or that acknowledgement. So 9 times out of 10, you probably became an overachiever. You probably were, like I said, you were a people pleaser at some point. And that overachieving, that striving to always do something to make somebody proud or get the praise, that's where that stems from. As an adult, that's what that connects back to. And that the issue with that is we never learn to love ourselves just because. We never learn to just love just because in general. When in reality, you should simply be loved for who you are. You should. That's why you have to learn to do it for yourself. And I tell a lot of people, a lot of times you end up having to, like one of my experiences, and one of the most impactful experiences on my journey was, before I got to where I am now, it was the reparenting process. Because if you got to think about it, if you address an inner child wounds as an adult, now what happens when you make these connections and you figure out, oh, I'm like this because of this. So like, what happens now? Like, how do I fix it as an adult? You have to reparent that inner child, because unfortunately for a lot of people, and I've seen this in real time too, a lot of people will have a particular trauma or a particular issue at a certain age, and they get stuck at that age, like emotionally. They get stuck right there at that age and do not know how to handle things beyond, like, think about the people you know that get upset. We're talking full-grown adults. Think about the people you know that get upset and their reaction is resemblance of a temper tantrum. It's like, oh my God, like you responded like a child. Like, that's childish. Because if that person had a big trauma or a big issue or something like that at 8 years old, 12 years old, whatever, they got stuck emotionally. They got stuck right there at that age, right in their trauma. Like, it never got addressed. It never got dealt with. So on an emotional level, that's where they stuck at. And if this is you, then it explains to you maybe why you react the way you do, why you shut down versus having a conversation or learning to communicate, or potentially why you, get upset and fly off the handle at people. Because on an emotional level, you never finish growing and progressing beyond where you initially got hurt. You know what I mean? So it stifles you. It literally stifles your growth. Like, it literally keeps you stuck. And this is why the healing be so important. But what I was going to say is that reparenting process is what's most important too, because now you got to go back and you got to kind of deal with that inner child. You have to give that inner child the reassurance that he or she needs. You have to go back and this ain't as hard as it sounds, y'all. I promise. Like, that is why I'm real big on affirmations. I actually, on this channel, in the messages and meditations playlist, there's a inner child healing meditation. And again, I just give y'all what I use. And that's one of my favorite ones. Like, when I need to go back and I need to have a conversation, because sometimes it depends on, how, if it's weird for you to go back and have a conversation with your inner child so you can move forward, then you don't necessarily have to do that. But you can try writing a letter to your inner child, or you, like I said, I'm big on affirmations. There's a video, and I'm just playing my sound bowl and I'm giving inner child healing affirmations. And that worked wonders for me. It worked wonders for me, because really you just going back and you imagining yourself as at the age where you know there were like major issues in your life, and you just basically go back and you picture it and you tell that child everything he or she needed to hear. And I like to do it by way of affirmation. So if you feel like that'll be helpful to you, go watch the it's in the messages and meditations playlist, and it's the only meditation over there, but it's the inner child healing meditation. And basically you just giving your inner child that reassurance, and you do it over and over as many times as you need to until you begin to feel, one, let that inner child release. Like I had to let mine have a whole tantrum, because I never got to do that as a child. I didn't get to throw tantrums. I didn't get to say what I didn't want to do. I literally just had to do what I had to do, because I was a big help to my mom from a very young age. So, and that's, that also became a part of my doing. I learned that, like, okay, I'm needed in this particular area, whether it be helping with the younger kids' clothes or cooking or cleaning, whatever it was, for me, I didn't really have an option, nor did I really want to say, no, I don't want to do that. No, I don't feel like doing that. But it wasn't really an option. It was just, I was always doing what I had to do. And I'm gonna give you an example of that spilled over into my adulthood, because I became a doer. It was always just do what you got to do. Just do what you got to do. Just do what you got. That's why I got to grind. I got to hustle in me too. And that's where that came from. Even when it came to building my catering business, that's where that comes from. And so it's like, this another thing. Like I'm not mad about those things. You learn to not be upset about it, but you do have to make the connections so that you can heal it. Because having a hustle, having a grind, it's not a bad thing. But the problem is, if you learn to only hustle, to only grind your whole life, that's all you're gonna ever do. That's all you're gonna ever do. And I'm just making this connection for those who can relate to maybe my story in particular. Now, if yours is something else, you have to connect those wounds. And like, I always try to talk on different topics, but please remember, I'm always speaking from experience. So I try to use my story so that you can find the ways it resonates with you, and connect the lessons yourself, or figure out what the lesson is for you. But for me, it made me a doer. I hustled, I grind all the way into my 30s. Problem is, okay, girl, you hit 33 and realize you've been working for 20 years and now you tired, and, ain't no true self-love in the picture. You had, you know what I'm saying? So you had to go backwards and rework the inner workings, rework the internal stuff, because that's just the reality of what you get when you only learn to hustle, you only learn to grind, and you never learn about self-care and self-love. You know what I'm saying? You have to go back and you got to teach yourself that. You got to allow that inner child to feel safe within the process as well. Because we just don't learn these things, y'all. And you know what I'm saying? I always say, like, it's not worth the resentment, because it's just not. Most of our parents taught us what they knew. That's the bottom line. They taught from what they knew. A lot of them are most likely stuck emotionally, mentally at a certain age. And that's their own healing journey to be on. That's their own healing journey to take. We responsible for us now. So it just is what it is. But I really wanted to give this like kind of analysis of why. I don't want to just get on here and just say you can't overgive, and you can't be selfless, and you can't just keep giving to other people and tell you not to, pour into other people from your cup. I want to actually help you understand. So I hope that I have broken it down, or at least given a relatable enough example that you understand why there is no badge of honor in the overgiving, and how it ties to your inner child wounds. That's my goal here. Because another thing that I'm seeing is people, it's not that self-love is frowned upon, but you got to know that it's frowned upon. Like, being selfish is frowned upon. Like, it's something that, like, especially those of us who grew up in the church. Let's just be real. Like, and I don't never want nobody to ever think I'm on here religion bashing or church bashing. Like, I grew up in the church. That's my foundation of what and who God is. That's my foundation. It's just as I got older, I evolved. My beliefs evolved. The way that I understand God, the universe, spirituality has evolved. So I'm never trying to push my beliefs on you, but I want you to understand where the core of what I want you to understand what is at the core of your beliefs and your foundation, because sometimes it messes us up. Like, it really messes us up. Put others before yourself. Like, no, why? It don't make sense. It doesn't make sense in any capacity. Like, we've heard enough examples. The examples of putting on your life vest first. The examples of when you on the plane, how you put your mask on first. Like, we've heard it over and over. But until you, like, break this stuff down, it do be hard to change. And it be hard to break out of those habits. Like, I ain't gonna hold you. It do. It's definitely hard. But I just want y'all to know that you are not alone in trying to figure this out. And that's why I always tell you, like, if you have a specific example, you know what else? If one thing I wanted to add, if you have, let's say you have a particular situation that I may be able to speak on, or I may be able to make a video on, or you have a specific topic, email it to me. I put my email in the description all the time, but qcinternational3@gmail.com. I put my email down there all the time, you know, so y'all can reach out that way too. And if it's something that I feel like enough people will resonate with, like it's not a very specific case of something, then I can make a video and we can discuss it. Because another thing I learned, like even with that, the foundation of a lot of us, we just don't talk about this stuff enough. That's why, like, if you look over on my chef channel, or my I guess you'll say catering channel, when I was posting a lot of my catering gigs, or I was posting cooking, my cooking channel is how it started, Queen Chef Joy, I had a segment where it was home cooked conversations, and it was always based around, like, it's still in development, because I got my little what is called, my little trademarks when I trademark Queen Chef and all that. But I still have, at some point, I'll put something in the works for it, but right now this is my focus. But anyway, I said that to say, over there, I had a segment called Home Cooked Conversations. And that's because I learned very early on my journey that talking about this stuff is important. But now let's say you have the type of family or the type of parents or whatever where talking about it ain't an option. And that could be for several reasons, because people aren't accountable, or because people get upset. People don't know how to handle hearing about themselves or hearing about how they made you feel growing up. Everybody's not going to be on that. Everybody's not going to be on reevaluating themselves. Because in some people, like a lot of us will have parents who simply say, I did my best. And that's just that, on that. And one thing I learned early in my journey, and this is another reason I don't harbor that resentment. Like when I hear you say, I did my best, and you get upset, okay, cool. I can't tell you that you didn't. If you say you did your best, okay, that was the best you had. I can't tell you that you didn't. I was a child. I don't know what your best was. So if that's what you say, that's what it is. But now I have to do the best things for me. Like, in radical self-love is one of the only ways out. And the reason I say that is because that's your key to true freedom. That is your key to truly, once you get to a place where you truly love who you are, that frees you from the opinions of other people. That frees you from the bounds of the things you learned to do as a child, the things you learned to believe as a child. Like, that is real and true freedom. Because I've never experienced freedom to just exist and just be in this world like I have now that I've accomplished and mastered true self-love. Because when you only apply the things like that you grew up on, that you grew up with, you don't feel, how do I say this? You don't give yourself the freedom to just exist, to just be. Because again, we always searching for that love, for those connections. And if you didn't get shown love as a child for simply existing, you don't know how to do that as an adult. You seek out your love and your connections by way of giving, by way of being a people pleaser. So that's how this all connects. So I hope I've brought it full circle for you, because that's all a lot of us want to do. It's like, we just want to be, we just want to connect, we just want to be in alignment, we want to find our tribe, find our people. Like, you just want to fucking be. Like, I don't know how many times I've said that in the last maybe 10 years. Like, when my journey truly started, and I truly started addressing my mother wounds, my father wounds, and noticing the different things, how they were showing up in my life, in my adulthood. When I really noticed, it's like, that's what it took for me. Like, I got tired. I got ran down, like, from the hustle, the grind, everything. I just was burnt out on giving. Even if it was just giving of my energy, I got burnt out from it. Because it's like, damn, I just want to just exist. Why do everything got to be so performative? Why do I got to be your entertainment? Why can't I just fucking exist? Like, that's what it took for me, me to really start my journey. I got to the point where it's like, whoa, like, it's a problem here in my life when I can't just exist as I am and be loved still. I gotta be doing something to feel the love. That's what kicked off my journey for me. I got tired. Like, I'm not performing. I'm not, you know what I'm saying? I'm not doing it no more. And I made that decision, and I started on my healing journey. But That's what I got for y'all today. I'm gonna stop it right there because it's getting long. I was gonna keep yapping, y'all. I'm gonna stop right there because it's getting long. But do all the YouTube things, y'all, for me. Like, subscribe, share if it was valuable to you. If you've had this conversation with somebody recently, or you want to have this conversation with somebody, because you know, me and my best friend, we talk about these things a lot. Me and a couple of my friends, like, we'll realize, like, low key, we all be going through the same things. We all be on the same journey, especially those of a certain age. Like, if you're a 90s baby, this is probably gonna hit for you. If you're a 90s baby and you grew up a certain way, you grew up a certain type of parent or in a certain area, i.e. the hood, like me, a lot of this stuff will resonate with you. So, you know, share it with somebody if you feel so inclined, or tag them over here and send them over here to Heal with QC. But I love y'all. I appreciate y'all. And please remember, you do not have to give and give and give and give to love, to connect. There's no badge of honor for it. The key to your healing in that regard is self-love, radical self-love, ruthlessly choosing yourself over all. Because if you can't be nothing to yourself, you can't be nothing to nobody. Thank y'all so much. Y'all be well. I'm gonna do this.